Hey, it's prime. We're 3 balls in, then we 3 balls out. We all up on your screens like it's prime time's route. Mighty gets the scoring. Oh, and PJ start to scout. Your rhyme's really trash. What do you think he's damn fouls? TBI the show, so buckle down, sit back. And Jay we trust, cause he's the leader of the pack. It's prime, Jewballer.
This is TBI 3 balls in alongside Dave and Logan. It is PJ's, and we're back at it once again. Logan back on the field. Dave will know where to be found, and PJ shows up. Did that really happen this week? Well, stay around because we're going to talk about it right this second. Logan, how you doing?
I feel good.
Davo, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm refreshed, ready to go.
Let's talk about yesterday's game. You had the featured matchup of Dax versus Prey, and that doesn't happen. Prey had some last-minute emergency and couldn't show up, and all of a sudden
he pulled the PJs.
And all of a sudden Rabin, his other son shows up to play quarterback. His real son. And Rabin Jr. plays quarterback against Dax. And you have a game that does not turn out to be a game.
A lefty-lefty, right?
Yeah.
Lefty-lefty matchup, which ended up just being
a blowout for Dax. There you go. And the southpaw winner goes to Dax. Dax once again piles up the stats on his side, kind of evens out his TD to interception ratio, and Dax is now back to where he's up there. I think what, Davo, 2-to-1 ratio, touchdown to interception.
16-8. I think 16-8. I could be wrong.
There you go. So,
yeah, you're right.
All right, 2-to-1 ratio. That's a pretty darn good ratio. And then you have the other game, which kind of felt, even though not everyone was a vet, kind of felt like a vets versus vets game. You had Yaron versus Snow. And that's a game that you just have those two guys on the field together. You're expecting that to be a magical game. And it was, although the magic got deflated when Kuti got hurt. Obviously, that's a tough one. He felt the pull, didn't feel good enough to play. You guys go to 6s.
We did.
And that obviously hurts the game a little bit. At that point, it was a 1-1 game, right?
Yeah, quite frankly, I don't know necessarily that it hurts the game. I mean, there's an aspect of where someone has to sit, so that sucks. But on a field that is just as wide and made for 7-on-7, having 6s and a guy like Mighty on the field, not that Mighty can't do it with 7s, but like it adds an extra little element to him, a little extra advantage, if you will. Now, we're not going to reset the field. That's just not practical. Right. And obviously you came in and helped out, but not ideal, but it still works out. Still played, had a good time.
So speaking of that, Kuti puts in the chat, anyone can come down. And honestly, I had just finished davening and I'm getting ready to, do some things. And I'm like, should I sign up? Should I go show up? Should I say I'm going to play? I'm like wearing a polo, slacks. I was wearing Hey, Gronk, what's up? So
little throwback.
Yeah, it was. That's kind of how I made my comeback years and years ago. So, and here I am. I answer the call. I show up. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And
it was the return of veal.
And I show up, and what turned out to be an incredible game. Ironically, probably the highlight of the game that everyone thought was the highlight of the game was a tackle on the kid. I know nobody's shocked to hear PJ's tackle a kid, but here we go. I actually tackle the kid. I got to be honest with you, got to give him a lot of credit. Some people in that situation would have got up, maybe got upset, maybe threw the ball down, maybe got in your face like, dude, go for my flag. He got up and said, nice hit.
Yeah, no,
that's you talk about respect factor. That's a tremendous amount of respect.
Yeah, no, he literally stood back up, said he loves contact. And, for someone who, for lack of a better term, eats a lot of shit, whether in the chat or, even on the field, the kid's got a good attitude. He shows up. He was late, so we do have to give him shit for that. But he shows up. He keeps doing his thing. Everyone loves a mouth. Everyone loves a heel, if you will.
Yeah.
But, he's a good kid. His heart's in the right place. So, thrilled that he reacted how we would hope someone would react to that type of play.
Such a good sign for the future of Jewball. Because Mike is the Mikes, the Zins, the Daxi Jr. And then you talk about those guys are the future of Jewball, and to see that like the attitude and the love for playing is there. There's nothing better than that particular play in this game, which ironically was the last play of the game. If you look up here, you can see the play right now. Not great camera work. Sorry, Jay. You got to get a little zoomed in over there. But here it sets up the play for you.
One would have thought he would have been better using his camera one-handed.
But he can't zoom because he's one-handed.
Gotcha, guys. Broken wing. That's what happens.
Drone?
All right. Oh, where's Zin's drone? There you go. I don't know. So here we are. Last play of the game. Well, third down, which turned out to be last play of the game. And Snow calls a deep pass, fade to the pylon to Mighty. And of course, I'm trying to get myself a play. So I said to Snow, I'll just run up the right sideline. I'll be there, whatever.
I mean, the play was all 4 receivers go deep. So like, just to make sure everyone's aware, you were not in the wrong place.
No,
like you were where you
exactly where I was supposed to be. But the ball is not going to anybody but Mighty in that situation. Nor should it.
Right, nor should it.
Nor should it. And all of a sudden, Snow is under pressure, throws the ball up. All of a sudden, I see the ball in my vicinity. I do a dive like this for the ball. It's in my hands, pops up at the same time. Mighty runs by, grabs it, and scores the touchdown.
Game winning.
Now, I actually think I had a shot of recatching that ball just because the ground, it popped the ball up. But the fact that Mighty was there, like, that's how good Mighty is.
When you say the ground, you really mean your hands.
What do you mean?
The ball didn't hit the ground.
No, the ball didn't hit the ground. Yeah, my elbows.
Ron's going to come running.
I know, right? Yeah,
no, my elbows hit the ground, which caused the pop up. And but Mighty always being where he needs to be, and the season he's having. I think we were talking in our TBI little chat before. Is anyone having a magical season like Mighty this year? Maybe Dax, right? The two of them are just having incredible seasons, but Mighty is just on a different level right now. And ironically, Mighty, in Mighty fashion, comes up to me after the game and says, "I'm so glad you showed up, but really on that last play." So a tremendous win for Snow, a 4-3 victory, a walk-off, not to be forgotten, but Goldberg had another touchdown. The guy always finds the end zone. Mighty had 2 touchdowns in the game. Oh, 3 touchdowns. Thank you. 2 plus the final touchdown.
Oh, he had 3.
Right, he had 3 touchdowns. And just an overall really good game between Snow and your own. Good to get. Oh, by the way, one of the best rushing touchdowns I've seen in the history of Jewball. A great handoff on 4th down. On a blitz to Solo. Yaron does a great job of rolling to the left and at the same time hiding the ball into Solo's stomach. Solo goes around the entire defense, runs it down the field for a touchdown. Incredible play.
On the replay, you kind of see Solo running and everyone's just like, it's not worth it.
By the way, speaking of Snow, he made an incredible flag grab on the kid. And you're not expecting that, right? The kid is super fast, and Snow he's got those instincts still. And it's just so good. He's working so hard to get himself back, not just as a quarterback, but back in Jewball. He played defense. He played well. You have a lot of credit to Snow in that game yesterday. And of course, he got the victory.
Yeah. I just want to address something in game 1. And I think that this is, I don't think anyone's fault. So the teams were made originally with Dax versus Prey.
Right.
And when the randomizer makes those teams, they factor in certain things, aka Prey is going to be there, not just on offense, but to play defense.
Right.
As soon as Prey couldn't make it, at least in my opinion, and this is not a knock on Little Ben. He's a high school kid, he played great, but team should have been changed. Like someone should have said, "Hey guys, this isn't fair. Let's reassess." Even just swap quarterbacks. Now I know Ben wanted to play with his son, so maybe you swap 2 for 2. But someone should have just raised their hand and said, "Hey guys, this doesn't make sense." That's all. You don't need Jordan to do that, right? Anyone in the game who saw the team.
But give those guys credit for playing through what was again a rough game to play in, especially if you're on the losing side of it. Give those guys credit. Nobody complained. Nobody walked off the field saying this was terrible. This was ridiculous.
It to the game. You know what I mean? And again, it's not necessarily a knock on the kid, but even if the kid was an adult, like a 30-year-old who's never really played with us, doesn't really know our guys, doesn't really know our style, it's almost like setting up someone to fail.
I mean, he threw for 4 touchdowns. Give him some credit.
Yeah, but only 2 were to his team.
No, he threw more than that. He threw 4 to his team.
Did he? It was 6-2 or something.
It was 6-4. At least that's what it says on the website.
But either way,
the game was definitely not as close.
It's a valid point.
That could be.
But anyway, so I'm just saying,
it's a valid.
Some common sense could have been used in that game. That's all.
It's a valid point. I think that's up to honestly, it's up to Dax to realize that. Switch teams up
Right.
a little bit. But
listen, after Morty scored a 17th touchdown,
Right.
Maybe.
all right, let's switch now
Game
to game 2, or we could say game 3. I don't know how you say it. 1A, 1B, and then game 2.
Yeah, game 2.
You had a feature matchup. Prey does show up. They moved the game all the way back to Hewlett. So you go from Woodmere to Hewlett. Prey versus Yaron. And unfortunately, I think Yaron sometimes this happens where he was actually really good game 1, right? Made some good calls game 1.
He played well game 1.
Played one, but I think
bad calls game 1, but we're not talking about that one.
No, we're not.
He made bad calls, but he called good plays.
Right, good play as a quarterback. And here he is, game 2, and he didn't have it. He just didn't have it in this game. And we went to all Prey, 5-2 victory for Prey. Not much to talk about there. Just, again, a good game, some good players. I do want to say, though, showing up and seeing the camaraderie of people just coming over and be like, hey, PJs, what's up? Everything good? Happy to see you out here. This guy, Mayor, a friend of Waldo, shows up, comes over to me, goes, dude, you're the TBI guy. And I was like, hey, we made it.
Wait, you mean that big lineman?
Yeah. Yeah, he watches TBI. I was like, yeah, we made it. That's awesome.
Wait, awesome, but he doesn't play with us. So what is he watching?
I don't know.
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. And shout out to Mayor. Thank you for watching. Thank you for
people love watching 3 balls.
That's arguable.
Well, Snow had an extra pair of balls out there in the field when the two of us lined up next to each other. Because we have League Week number 1, part 2 and part 3. Dave will kick us off. Who's the featured matchups? What are we going to expect to see this Sunday?
League 1 happening again.
There we go.
League 1, part 2. We're going to start with the Cronies versus the Dogs. That's the early game. Potential future heavyweight battle. You're talking about 2 of probably...
The 2 past champions also.
Correct.
Quarterbacks, I should say.
The Dogs have never played a game, so I don't think they're champions.
Well, their quarterback is a former champion on the Roll Tide, and then you have the Crony champion. That counts. All right. Dave, keep going.
But as I was saying, you have 2 of the highly touted drafted teams.
Yes.
It's a very interesting matchup because Dax hasn't really played with a lot of his team mates. Last season he was, he had his brother. He had Open and Zin and Legs who he played Tuesday nights with also. But this season coming in, he has Mighty as his go-to. I think Mighty is the X factor in this game. He's like we've all been saying, he's been having a magical season. He's got 13 total touchdowns in 6 games. 11 of those are receiving 2 pick sixes. If Mighty can continue to have his Mighty season in this game, I don't think the Dogs can lose. You're talking about Gronk, who's a guy who can throw like 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, or a guy who could throw 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the same game. We've seen that many a times. The line battle, I'm going to give to the Cronies in this one. A Daxi open line is
you still think that Open should have been drafted in the 0 round, right?
I always think Open should have been drafted in the 0 round, but I think it gives him a big advantage. Owen Legs is a good line, but it's not. I don't think it's the same. End of the day, let's make up a score. We're gonna say 30, 32, 20, 27
in favor of
the Dogs.
Okay. Listen, you have a great matchup this week. Mighty versus Storm. Last year's MVP versus right now perennial, maybe MVP of this season, going head to head against each other. You've got Gronk versus Dax. You've got, talk about a line matchup, right? Legs versus Open, 2 former teammates last year. There's so many storylines with this game. You've got the injured Cronies, right? Who had to go deep into the Crony history and bring back and welcome back to Jubal to bring back Maor for this coming game this Sunday. A man who is the MVP of the championship 2 years ago. There is no one more exciting to see back out there than Maor. Good to see him out there playing with the Cronies. Listen, I think if the Cronies are fully healthy, it's a different story. And they're injured. I'm a little nervous about that. But you talk about Zada, you talk about Gronk, you talk about Daxi, and you talk about Open, and you talk about Storm. It's a good team. It's a good team. To put a score on it, I'm never going to go against my own team here. I'm going to go Cronies 28-21. By the way, dogs are a great team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Mighty's going to give, the cronies a really hard time out there. But I just think that Gronk's blitzing ability, if he plays middle linebacker, I think he can do a lot of trickery there. Just his defense, I think there's a really good shot here of the cronies winning. Logan?
Yeah, so I think
probably the most impartial of the three of us.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really great storylines. So first of all, I think you guys touched on it, the line battle of open Dax versus legs and Big O. I think you got to give the advantage to the cronies here. But while the cronies had the advantage, either way, I think it's going to be a fun battle, like a fun, as a spectator, that is a fun watch. Just those four guys going up against each other. I think that's a ton of fun. Then you've got Gronk versus Dak, right? So we're breaking it down: line, quarterback, wide receivers. So Dax versus Gronk. There's a couple of good data points on Dax. So Dax this year we had said he's 16 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. However, 5 games. Of those games, he's played 2 with his brother and 3 without. The 2 games he played with his brother, he's 1-0-1, but he's thrown 12 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Interesting
stuff. If you take away his brother, the 3 games he hasn't played, he's got a higher win percentage. He's 2-1. However, he's only thrown 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So I'm really interested to see how he gels with this team. So again, without his brother, he's, for now, let's call him the lesser quarterback. So I'm going to give the advantage, if you will, to the cronies in Gronk. The other piece we have to remember is that while Gronk is a good QB, he's elite on defense. And I think you touched on this. He is an elite defender, whether at free safety or middle linebacker. And I think he can definitely impact the game there. The last piece is we're going to look at the corners and the wide receivers. Now, because of some injuries, we know we have Storm. We know we have Zada for cronies. We have more. I don't know who else they're going to have. I think they're still looking. Versus some people I think we know we're going to play: Mighty, Ross, Steve-O, and Waldo. I think just looking at those on paper, you have to give the advantage to the dogs there. So at this point, making a prediction, look, Mighty just keeps doing Mighty things. Over the past 2 games, both games he's had 3 touchdowns, including the game winner. He keeps doing Mighty things. It's ridiculous. And quite frankly, until someone proves to me that they can contain Mighty on the field, I can't bet against him. I think this game goes to the dogs. Although because it is early on in the season and people haven't gelled yet, I think it's a little bit lower scoring than you guys think. I think it's a 3-2 victory for dogs.
All right. Let's switch now to the other game. Dave, present it to us. We got game 3, I should say, of week number 1. This is the matchup between the
Purple Cobras versus the Lionhearts, or Lionhearts versus Purple Cobras. I don't know if we have a home field advantage thing. I don't think it ever makes a difference. I don't know. However you want to call it, that's how it is. We have Perla versus Yaron. This is an interesting one. Because it's funny, Yaron's biggest weakness is pressure. And he's going up against probably the best pressure person in Solo. I think Solo and Spira are a tremendous line. And also don't count out Whiskey also on that line. As you have to sub in, Whiskey's been having a great season. So again, we have a good line battle for the Cobras happening. But on the other side, you're looking at Yaron literally went 1, 2, 3. He went wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. We all know Yaron likes to throw it all over the field. Dax, we've been saying, has an incredible year.
Yeah.
Can he do it without his brother? Jack, it would be good to see him back on the field again.
Definitely.
This game to me is a little bit of a possibility of a blowout. This can end up being something. We saw last year, Yaron and the Lionhearts took the first game against Roll Tide. Their only loss last season. They won, I think it was like 7-6 or 6-5, yeah, something like that. So we know Yaron has the ability to put up numbers early before teams gel. Perla hasn't really played with these guys yet. I'm looking at like a 5-2 victory since Yaron can't score extra points for his life. Let's say 31-13.
All right, interesting. I think actually one thing you said that I don't 100% agree with. I actually think Yaron does really well under pressure.
I was totally going to say the same thing.
Yeah, he's so he gets rid of the ball so fast and so quick. I actually think he can handle pressure well. But you are going up against Solo,
Right.
You know, and I don't think he has, you know, Beast is going to have a rough game out there going up against Solo. But if there's anybody up to the task of blocking Solo, it is Beast. And he's that type of lineman right there. I don't think you have necessarily the premier line matchup. I think what you have here is, does Yaron get the ball to the players he needs to at the right time? And can Perla match that up? Because I think it's good, like you said, I think this has potentially a high-scoring affair. The question is whether Perla can keep up with Yaron. We know that Jack can do special things in the field. We know that Dax right now is, you know, last year we joked around him being a third-round pick. You know, he's clearly the 4th overall pick. He clearly has earned that spot the way he's playing right now. How do you contend with that, right? How do you stop that? So Yaron has a high-octane offense. The question is whether Perla can do that with Goldberg. Can Goldberg be the receiver like Yaron's going to have on his side? If Goldberg can do that, because we know Goldberg's having a really good year as well. If Goldberg and Perla can create this connection, I think this is a close game. I think it's 5-4, but I think I'm going to go with Yaron as well. As much as I love Perla and I love the Purple Cobras, I got to go Yaron 5-4.
Well, I'm going to say this just before Logan, you jump in. Expect a lot of 3-man rush from the Lionhearts. They're probably gonna have Dax coming down a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have Beast Bird versus Solo and Spira or Solo Whiskey. Perla's a guy also. Pressure. He starts to, you know, get tighter. And a lot of 3-man rush is gonna come here. Everyone's gonna love to send that 3rd man every play. I think you're gonna see Dax. And he has the ability to do that because he has stats on one side, he has Fox on the other side, and he has something that Purple Cobras doesn't have. He actually has a safety. You know, we always talk about how safeties are so rare in this league. Yeah. He has one of those safeties.
Although Pearl is not a deep throwing quarterback,
right.
so
I think the safety comes
right, because Pearl is not. He's more of a guy who picks apart the defense.
Your safety doesn't have to play deep. You're not now. Now he has the ability to bring the safety up and bring a 3rd.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think like just the defense in terms of what Cobras do versus what Lionhearts do, they don't necessarily line up, you know, so much. You know, to your point, Jack is a great free safety. I just don't see Perla going deep all that often.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying, but it gives them the ability to rush 3.
Logan, what's your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so look, I'll break it down the same as I did quarterback, line, and wide receiver core. So if you look at the quarterback, Yaron versus White Goodman, like, you know, I got to give the advantage to Yaron, and I'll actually, you know, PJ's, I'll agree with you, and Davis, I'll argue with you. While Yaron may not be as mobile as guys like Prey or his Dax, his release is probably the fastest in the league.
Yeah.
So he can get rid of the ball real quick. So, and again, he sees the field real well. Not that other quarterbacks don't, but he sees the field real well. So I don't necessarily know that he'll have as much of an issue as we're making out to see. But again, no disrespect to White Goodman, but I still think you have to give Yaron the edge there in terms of the quarterback battle. As far as the line battle goes, I'll agree with you. The Purple Cobras, Solo Whiskey, and Spira definitely have the advantage there, but don't sleep on Bert. Like you guys, both of you guys mentioned Beast, but like Bert is on that line also.
Sure.
Bert can block. Like Bert is a good lineman and somewhat underrated. Letting Beast play tight end and Bert playing dead, I think that's an advantage to Yaron. And quite frankly, one of the things Yaron does really, really well is he utilizes the tight end. I think that him utilizing the tight end may be able to neutralize to some extent the playmaking ability of Solo on the defensive line. And I think we should look to see, like, I think he will go to that time and time again. Excuse me, especially, you know, if they're getting pressure, Beast is going to be open. So again, I think Yaron utilizing the tight end is going to play well. But again, advantage on the line goes to the Cobras. And then lastly, wide receivers, you got Dax and Jack and Fox versus Goldberg, Sharf, MK, and the Kid. I think you got to give the advantage to the Lionhearts there. So again, Cobra's line is deadly, but I do think Yaron can do things with his quick release and his utilization of the tight end. I do think he can kind of somewhat neutralize that. You've got a wide receiver cornerback advantage to the Lionhearts. So I do think it's enough. I don't see this high scoring as you guys do. I think it's a 4-2 victory for the Lionhearts, but the fact that all three of us pick Lionhearts means probably Purple Cobras will win 6-0.
All right, listen, it is a time for us to present our first in-studio guest. Our first in-studio guest. This season. It is none other than the Dogs' second overall pick. It is Legs. Legs, welcome to TBI.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good to see you. It's awesome. Good to be here.
Great to be here.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me.
this is an honor, right? So I'm gonna talk something through with you, right? The draft. I think you had a feeling you were gonna go up the draft just because of the way you and Open played together last year. Your line play definitely. I mean, you've always been a strong lineman, but your line play went up exceedingly last year playing with the Roll Tide. But did you see yourself being the first pick in the second round?
No, I mean, I really,
You saw yourself being the first pick in the first round.
yeah, I don't know what you're talking.
Last pick in the first round.
I was told I was the first pick ahead of Mighty. I don't know why you guys. It was a snake trap, but no, honestly, I mean, I have to give it to Surly. I hope I don't let him down. But listen, if you're a lineman in this league and you're playing pretty well, you're obviously going to go ahead in the draft. It's not a skill-based thing. It's if you have the size and speed, then you're going to go. And I happen to play that role nicely. So, people, it's attractive to quarterbacks.
David, how many touchdowns does he have this season? Does Legs have?
Well, Legs, do you know how many touchdowns you have this season?
Yeah, I think I have 5.
He does. He does
I
have
think
5.
I have 5. No.
I know. Every night before I go to sleep, it puts me in the mood. Like, 1 second.
David's got an interesting stat here.
But here's the question, right? You have 5 touchdowns in 5 games this season. In your previous 4 seasons, you played 32 games.
Okay.
Do you know how many touchdowns you've scored?
Say 32.
Probably
just
5.
say 32.
Probably. I don't know.
You've actually scored 4 touchdowns in 4 seasons. So this season already, you have actually scored more touchdowns. So I ask you, are you sure you're still a lineman?
Right. So I obviously was not playing lineman for those 2 games. I mean, let's be honest, I scored 4 this past week. I played a great Sunday. I had 1 great Sunday. I'm happy about it. And, I'm not going to make a big deal of that.
I'm just saying, listen,
Yeah.
it's Surly, if you're listening, he's not only a lineman, you can send him out, he can roll out.
I mean, Shirley does do that. Shirley's terrific. I can't complain about any of them.
I'm saying send him on a deep ball.
Said differently, he's not just a pretty face. There's a lot more to Legs than just a pretty face.
This is why I come here. You guys are great.
Here's a question for you. So a couple of pieces. Number one is, do you like dogs with a W or do you not?
I haven't put a lot of thought into it.
Okay.
I have not thought about the name at all. I'm looking at the team and trying to see how far we'll go and what role I'm going to play in winning. But yeah, no, I hate it, honestly.
You hate it?
No,
No one likes dogs with a W. What's going on here?
Whatever. I think Steve-O came up with it.
Do you think? Oh well, if he came up with it, I love it.
But yeah, exactly. That's why I don't want to see you.
But just to go back, do you think Surly should have kept Roll Tide and just kind of kept it just like all the other quarterbacks keep their team names, or do you think that it was okay that he changed it?
I think it was okay that he changed it. He kept Roll Tide for Tuesday night. He changed his Tuesday night team because it pretty much is the same. It's a lot of the core guys. So I think he felt like, out of respect to his teammates who he felt that name belonged to as well, he felt like it wasn't right for him to make it his own. It belonged to all of us at W. Even the guys that aren't playing on the Tuesday nights, I think that they took meaning in that.
And that's fair. So kind of briefly touched on Roll Tide. I'll just throw something out there to you. And again, you haven't had this yet, but if you were going to rank them in order, the past 3 champions, Bop, Cronies, Roll Tide, what would be the order?
Keep in mind, he was on 2 of those teams.
Right? I know. That's what I'm saying. Why do you think it's a good question?
Yeah.
Except for Cronies, but Bop and Roll Tide.
That's what I'm saying.
What were the 4? It was,
I mean the past 3 champions. So
Bop, our Bop team.
Cronies, not this year's, but the 2, the team that won, and then Roll Tide. Which of those, rank them, best to worst?
I feel like Roll Tide was the top team I've ever played with. I mean, it was. I mean, it's not a rip on Bob.
No,
Bob, but that team should never have even happened.
Saying Cronies are better though? That's the best team you've ever played with.
Right. No, I think Roll Tide is the best team. I just think you have an incredible quarterback, receiving core. That team never should have taken the line held. Meaning it was just such a good team. And it was because nobody knew any of the players. So in a case where you don't know, that's the only time that could ever really truly happen is when nobody knew what rank people would go. And then also guys picked up. I mean, Betsy played a great game.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone picked up. Ernie, obviously. just a lot of great players on that team, and then cronies,
Bob-
and then Bob was a
It's
magic.
more like Bob was like 07 Giants, right?
Yeah, it was-
Like they just run this magical run, guys step up. Like you got like a Veg being like Tyree making great catches all over the place.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Dobbs like
Yeah, he was
Dobbs
grabbing every
everywhere.
flag. I wasn't
Right.
even online during.
Yeah, I
the
know,
game.
I know.
I was just following Flash. Like it was it was just everyone played amazing for that day.
Right.
It was a great day. It was a magical day. But
What's a championship?
right,
So you would say a roll title like the Kansas City Chiefs.
right. Like
Wait.
if you put that team out and you would expect them to win.
So you're saying that Dax in the third was a little fugazi.
All right, real question here. You are pure Jewball, right? I mean, I think everyone knows this. You've hosted, you've sponsored the Hanukkah party every year.
I didn't sponsor a lot. I wanted to, but it was taken away from me.
Whatever, but you did the first 2
I
years.
was happy
right?
to.
You
Yeah.
did the first 2 years. You're pure Jewball. In your mind, and take a second to think about this. What would you say, either on the field or off the field, is your favorite Jewball moment?
If we're talking about my favorite like obviously winning with Roll Tide was like an incredible moment for me, but you're not asking that. You're saying what as someone
I mean,
who,
like,
really
watching-
identifies
for you.
as a Jewball
Watching
person.
Ernie at the punch machine. Like
Yeah. I'll be honest. My best times are really the barbecues on the field, when everyone's together, and even more than that, really the family. Like even the chat alone, like is amazing. Like just the chat. And
Imagine
the
how
brotherhood.
great it would be if you were up to date with it.
I know. I actually don't agree. It's much better just like go scrolling. It's like, oh, this is good. This isn't good. I'll skip a bunch of this.
Nothing's better than when
It's a
Bert,
DVR, and I'm like totally
yeah, like when Bert takes a picture and you see it 4 hours later.
Yeah. I'm like commenting on things like pops back up, and I watch it when I comment on things, and I watch it just go all the way. It goes
You're like,
all the
wait.
way down. I'm like, oh my god.
You're like, wait, why am I in the chat right now?
How
5 hours later.
How far down is this gonna go? But yeah,
So good that you
I
fast
just-
forward
yeah.
Jewball
yeah.
commercials.
I love I love the camaraderie. It's really not the moment. It's this feeling that everyone has each other's back. If anyone needed anything, truly, actually, that's probably it. When Salem going through that tough time, and everyone was there for him, no matter what. Like everyone just wanted to be there. Everyone showed up. Going to that like his daughter's party that they threw, and like just seeing everyone there. It's just knowing that could be you, and that you have people that care about you and you can rely on. I think it's a beautiful thing, especially in this world. I think it's tough. You don't find it everywhere, and you really can't take it for granted.
I love that.
Legs, I got one more question for me. Your first Jewball game ever, you actually scored a touchdown and you didn't have a sack. Do you know who threw you that touchdown?
My first
Jewball
first
game.
catch.
You always remember your first, right?
Apparently
It's
not.
like, what, 3 years ago? It wasn't your own. I
Just
think it
bet
was.
on
Was it Prey? Yeah. Was it Prey? I don't know.
It was not Prey. The answer is the Frog Licker.
Wow.
Interesting.
And it was against Jaron, though.
That makes it all the better. That's so much better. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you
I
want to
didn't
know,
remember.
your first sack was against Rob Ben, if you wanted to remember that.
That makes
Who was also a frog licker.
this makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I'll ask you a little on-field question here. So, who's your least favorite Jewballer to line up against? Either as an O-lineman, or I guess give us both. As an O-lineman, who's your least favorite defender to line up against? And then as a D-lineman, who's your least favorite O-lineman?
Currently playing or no?
Oh, in your time, not like
Okay,
you didn't
yeah.
ever line up against Bosch.
At least favorite doesn't mean personally. He means like,
Obviously,
like
yeah.
who's the hardest
Like your
battle
toughest
for you?
matchup.
Yeah.
Honestly, Munch is literally the worst person to line up against. And Solo, it's not because he's better. And you saw when he wrestled Yaron that one time and like broke his ankle. It's just like, it's a guy who, and I love him. He's awesome. And when he's on your team, there's nothing better. But when you're against him, he like doesn't have that thing in your mind where you're like, maybe I shouldn't go 100% right now because this person's going to get really hurt. Like he's just going.
You're the same exact way.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If
It takes one to go one.
Yeah, if I had to go up against me, I'd run the same.
That's a little not calling the kettle blood red.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but you're gonna get hurt. If you're like lining up against Munch for a day, you know you're gonna walk home pain. So yeah, definitely Munch.
All right.
Munch, yeah.
And then in that same light, who's the hardest quarterback to sack?
Oh, probably Stacks or your own. It's really your own. They both get rid of the ball so quickly, and Dax is so far back. I would actually say, yeah, I want to say your own unless you're rushing 3, then it kind of throws them off when you're going in. But yeah, if you're rushing 3, then Dax. But if you're rushing 2, then your own. He's literally hates holding on to the ball. He's throwing that ball so quick. You guys didn't ask me about predictions.
How's the Beast wedding planning going?
Oh, amazing! I don't know if he knows about it. Any day of the week, we're ready to go. I just gotta call a few people. We're ready to go. They're on speed dial. Yeah,
love to hear that.
It's awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for coming by.
Do you have a prediction for your
league games?
What are both league games?
There's the 4 teams are playing.
Yeah, I know. So I'll start with not the one that I'm.
So Lionheart's Dogs.
Yeah, I think Lionhearts.
Sorry, Lionhearts versus Cobras.
I agree with you guys.
Lionhearts. And then Cronies Dogs.
I think Cronies don't have a team. I want to know who they're who is gonna replace. If they get like a star, then be a lot harder. But as of now, I think we have the.
I mean, we've had this talk in the chat. I think Zinn and Robinson are going to come down. Many teams. They're in.
True. That actually did come up on our chat. Like, I wonder if they're going to bring Zinn in. So it's like Jordan will never allow that. He'll never allow that. It's like I hope not. It'd be miserable. But I like.
Thanks,
guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that was awesome.
Always
So nice to have guests in person.
Just nice to have guests.
That's also true. All right, boys. What do we got going on this week, Davo?
We got a lot. We got Tuesday Night Football. Big shout out to Jewball for everything they did for Dom. Dom, if you're watching this, we really do appreciate you. We have Thanksgiving Bowl, Turkey Bowl. Sign up if you haven't done it yet. We're going to get 2 games. Hopefully we'll have some extracurriculars there. Guys, Turkey Bowl is one of the greatest shots you get at a bowl game this year. We have Week Leaks. There is no game. There is no sign up for Sunday, but that doesn't mean you can't come out, and that doesn't mean you can't watch and film. TBI needs you to film so we can put plays up here. Don't forget to subscribe and share. And as always, you're 3 balls in.
And we are now 3 balls out. Have a great week, everybody.
In, then we 3 balls out. We all up on your screens like it's prime time's route. Mighty gets a score. Oh, and PJ start to scout. Your rhymes really.